Hello, this is Michelle again, and this week I'm going to be focusing on the design phase of Addie. So I found quotes from a variety of the readings that I feel like really help me understand kind of the design side of this. This table was taken from the Developing of eContact package, the ebook. So it defines design as the process of how it is going to be learned, whatever that thing is, and then you have tasks and output. So during the design phase, you're looking at writing objectives, creating those test items, planning instruction, identifying reasons. The output is measurable outcomes, instruction strategy, and prototype specifications. What I really learned from kind of the ebook and the design phase overall is this is really kind of creating the map to your unit. So you've come up with this thing you want to teach somebody. And in the analysis phase, you're learning about the people you're going to be teaching, right? So you're figuring out what they know, what they don't know, where the gaps are. And now in the design process, you're figuring out, okay, how can I get them to where they need to be? How can I close the gaps? How can I kind of create the step by step of how I'm going to get the students there and how am I going to know that they got there. So you're kind of putting in all the little bits and pieces of the puzzle ahead of time. So you're figuring out and being creative and kind of coming up with those ideas. Um, so in this text, the accessible instructional design, they had a quote that said, when designing online learning courses, though it must be given not only to accessibility for individuals with disabilities, but also how does the design benefit the majority of people as well. I really thought the universal design section was really interesting because as an instructor, I don't think this is necessarily in the front of a lot of people's minds. I enjoyed the examples where they talked about things like push and pull doorknobs are easier for most people than twist handles and they benefit everybody. So why wouldn't you use them? When you're thinking design for how you're going to create a unit, the same mantra or thought process needs to apply, which is you're looking to benefit the most people as possible. And how are you going to do that through your instruction? So if you're thinking about through programs like this where you're designing a course, you're figuring out the end goal at the beginning, right? That's part of the design. So how are you going to create or design a program that's going to benefit the most people? And that takes a lot of creativity. So coming up with alternative assignments that, or choices that a variety of people can do different things to end with the same amount of learning. And figuring out processes or technology that supports multiple learners and learning styles in different groups is important to the design process because that's your job, is to think of these things ahead of time. So design is typically the phase where you verify the desired performances, learning tasks, and appropriate testing strategies. So really looking, like I said, to fill in the gaps you found with your analysis phase. So part of that is going to involve the idea of assessment, right? The appropriate testing strategies. How can you know at the end of the day that the students learned what you set out to have them learn is a big part of design. Otherwise, you're just throwing random activities at a human and hoping that it sticks. But if you don't know how it stuck, then you're really only doing half the job. And the design phase in the Designing a Balanced course, they focused on instructional strategies that would enhance student interaction with course content. During this stage, the design team discussed broader learning outcomes that could be taught in addition to the traditional course content. So, once again, design is really, to me, about thinking the project to the end. So not just saying day one, this is where we're going to start, and by the end, like they'll have learned the topic, but really saying, okay, if I want them to be able to do X, Y, or Z, how can I plan for that? So creating not only just daily course content, but bigger outcomes. What do you want them to be able to do? What are the gaps that they have that you learned from your analysis, and how are you going to close those gaps over time? So I define the design phase is the act of creating the end goal, developing the goals of instruction and what students should be able to do at the end of the unit. This includes various forms of assessment and learning outcomes. So I find that the backwards planning, or UBD, design, instructional design, to be sort of the ideal within a design phase. So saying, what are the learning objectives? What are the learning tasks? And then backwards mapping and saying, okay, this is what I want at the end. So how do I get there from here? But I think this is an important and very labor intensive process because you're creating the roadmap to a unit. You're saying, just like you would with any good road trip, my end destination is Disney World. That's great, but how am I going to get there? What stops do I need to make along the way? Where am I going to get gas? Where am I going to stay the night? And that's exactly what the design phase does as well, right? You're using tasks and assessment to say, okay, I want my students to be able to analyze speeches at the end of the unit. Wow, that's great. How am I going to get there? What tasks do they need to be able to learn? How can they learn them? And how can I assess to see if they actually learn them? So it creates a focus to your unit, and by creating the end goal at the beginning, there's a focus to your learning, and it creates a map for the rest of your design. So it becomes sort of the blueprint for how you're going to get from point A to point B. How are you going to get from here to Disney World, here to a analysis? And that's a creative process that takes time. I think this is a really challenging step because creativity can be a difficult beast to handle. But it is really sort of the meat of your unit. All right. Thank you.